when you're trying to give shoppers a native-like experience in browser, you want that performance there, and you want that user experience as well to match.
This is Velocitize Talks, and I'm Lauren Cox. Today, we have Tayo Onabule, co-founder and CEO of Drewl. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So, Tayo, tell me a little bit about Drewl and what's special, and how do you work with your clients?
What kind of sets Drewl apart is our focus on user experience, whether that's in the back end for back end users, content writers, and so on, or the front end where the actual end users of a product or a website actually interact with a brand. We really focus on that, the user experience, the interface design, really focusing on user journeys and making them as frictionless as possible, as much as I hate using the word frictionless, but we want to make things beautiful and simple and delightful to use.
Yeah.
And so as part of that, obviously we call ourselves a WordPress experience agency, but we also focus a lot of our energies on headless, whether that's headless WordPress and working with Atlas, of course, and more we're going towards headless e-commerce and seeing what's possible there as well.
Yeah, awesome. So when you love user experience and creating an amazing experience, do you follow kind of any standards of discovery when you work with clients?
Our general approach is honestly just to know as much as possible about what the user's trying to do, what's blocking them, and how to sort of enable them as best we can. Obviously, whether that's a back-end dashboard build that we're doing, or something on the front end, the way we might collect that data changes, but our goal is always just to understand what the user's looking for as best we can, and then design and build around that, basically.
WP Engine and Drewl worked together on Android Authority, and you at Drewl you really created something very special and very, very cutting edge for Android Authority. So did you tell me a little bit about how that worked?
We sort of stumbled across headless just because we'd seen, I think, TechCrunch do it back in the day, where we saw just how great the experience was, what they were doing from a tech standpoint, and the fact that they were able to maintain using WordPress as their CMS, which was one of the key things that Android Authority wanted to maintain as they did a site upgrade. And so, everything sort of fell into one place. We started onboarding developers into the agency. Before then, we were quite design heavy. Started onboarding developers in. Somehow, one way or another, we managed to learn it, even though there's not really much in terms of resources around headless at the moment, or even back then, rather. Then we kind of chipped away at it. It was a long process at first. We were kind of building up our own framework at the same time, trying to figure out how to handle such a large site on headless WordPress when there's really not much in terms of documentation for even small sites or medium-sized sites. We were kind of training ourselves on it and probably contributing to what are the first few years of headless WordPress being used on major sites. And now, obviously, it's turned out to be a massive success. They've done really well in terms of numbers as a result of it. Higher revenues, higher visitors every month, decreased bounce rates, better ad revenue. It's been a massive success for them, and obviously,
that's awesome.
It's also given us a chance to really hone our headless WordPress skills and refine our approach to it as well.
We see that page speed is a huge benefit of headless. So what would you say are some other kind of key outcomes that a headless architecture, a decoupled architecture brings?
I think the ones that I've been banging on about are really what we're interested in it. And that's sort of two things other than page speed, performance and security and those sorts of things. And that's one, developer experience. I don't know how much everyone who's watching this has talked to a WordPress developer or dealt with WordPress developers, but it's an interesting world, WordPress development, because it doesn't rely on a lot of the foundational principles that other development practices rely on. And so being able to go headless WordPress opens you up to a world of developers that's quite different, and it's a lot more colorful. There's a lot more interest in it. The developers are really motivated when it comes to decoupled architectures, especially when they're dealing with frameworks like React and so on. So I think definitely the developer experience is one thing. And then another thing is the user experiences that you're able to create with it. Using front-end frameworks like Next and React, for example, they're both very developed and mature frameworks at this point. And to this day, Next.js gets updates that are not important to a lot of people, but on a technical level, pretty groundbreaking. They enable massively improved experiences each time. And I think that possibility that's created by using a decoupled architecture, and especially headless WordPress, like when you pair a great front-end experience with I think what is unarguably one of the best CMS experiences that you can get, then it's really exciting what we're able to build as an agency and deliver to a client. That's it's really confidence inspiring to say this is what you're going to get at the end of the day, and it be the best of everything across the board.
So you're playing with e-commerce as well. And are you utilizing Woo for that? Or how are you thinking about that?
We're looking into Woo, but we're also looking into BigCommerce and seeing what's possible. Obviously, we know you guys are sort of looking at that as well. And I think that all of these things that we've discussed, like performance and user experience and security, and even developer experience as well, all of these things, the benefits of them to a publisher site or a marketing site, I'm not going to say they're limited, but they are limited by how much a marketing site or a publishing site can benefit from those things. But in the world of e-commerce, all of those things matter so much more. So when we're talking about performance, in terms of cart abandonment or follow through with a transaction, or even just shopping experience generally, performance makes a massive, massive part of it. And especially when you're trying to give shoppers a native-like experience in browser, you want that performance there, and you want that user experience as well to match. And so that's where headless e-commerce becomes so special. It really brings all of the benefits a merchant could possibly want to their site, and potentially continuing using the platform that they're most comfortable in. So we're really excited about the possibilities of headless e-commerce.
So how do you know if headless is right for an organization?
It's a tough one. This is the question that gets asked a lot. I'm pretty sure there's the sort of main answers that float about is, it's a matter of technical capability or budget or time. And I think the fact is that's the answer to that question right now because it's so early. And there's just not a lot in terms of resources around, and developers aren't necessarily skilled up on it. There's not necessarily frameworks available at the moment. Obviously, there are Atlas blueprints, quick plug for that.
Thanks, Drew.
But I think that's what's causing those answers. The fact is, once you get into it, there's honestly no reason to not go headless. The only reason I can think of to not go headless that fully stands up is maybe if you're doing it for a client where you need to hand over the project and they don't have any technical capabilities in-house and they're not willing to stay with an agency after the fact, which is a very specific case. Obviously, we've all dealt with clients like that, but that's the only time, because otherwise the benefits that it brings, whether it's on the headless WordPress, publishing, marketing, site kind of thing, or if it's on headless e-commerce, the benefits are kind of undeniable.
Yeah.
And they're everything you look for in a normal site. It just happens to be that Headless does basically everything better.
So how would you recommend you start to investigate Headless, or start to learn about Headless, or start to implement a Headless site?
Well, this kind of leads on from what I was saying a second ago.
Yeah.
There's not a great way right now.
Yeah.
There's obviously, I know that WP Engine is doing a lot in terms of trying to make frameworks available and trying to, make available documentation that might help the community, but there's not a ton right now. One of the things that we're doing as an agency is we've managed to purchase the domain headless.com, which we're really excited about.
Yeah.
And we're going to be building a kind of community resource with a bunch of frameworks and starting points and documentation on a ton of common integrations. And it's going to be completely community run.
Yeah.
We've already been speaking to WP Engine to get involved, and we'll hopefully be getting the likes of BigCommerce to step in on the e-commerce side.
Yeah.
It's platform agnostic, agency agnostic. It's honestly just about building the community.
Yeah.
Our approach to it is, we'd rather have a small slice of a big pie than a big slice of a barely existent pie. That's kind of where we're going.
Yeah.
Right now, though, I don't have anywhere to point anyone.
Yeah.
I think you guys are probably doing the most right now, but I don't have anywhere better than that to point anyone right now.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. So I love to finish an interview with the question of what gets you up in the morning, what gets you inspired from new technologies and trends?
It's a tough one to not just say Headless straight away. I don't know, am I even that excited about it? No, I am. But I think we're really interested in blockchain, but I'm going to preface that by saying we're not interested in like Ethereum or Bitcoin or NFTs or that sort of thing. I think that what's exciting about blockchain is that it really is, if we've all heard that, like Web 1 is just documents on the internet, Web 2 is stuff you can interact with, and Web 3 is where it's decentralized and not owned by a single entity. I think that's what's most exciting about blockchain and what's possible in that space. One of the things that we're working on at the moment is an app called Provenir, and it's all about content authenticity and authenticating the digital art that you make. And what's going on in the background happens to be that you're minting an NFT and storing files on a decentralized storage network. But what's exciting about it is that decentralized aspect of it makes it completely immutable. It's completely unarguable. The fact that a piece of content was created at a certain time by a certain person. And these sorts of use cases around blockchain are fascinating because never before has there been an opportunity to have apps or any sort of digital tools built in such an open way where everyone can verify the truth and ownership around it. And so that's what I'm going to say I'm most excited about.
Thank you. That was Tayo Onabule from Drewl. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.